herbs come straight from the land of our Prime Minister himself, straight from Atlanta, St. Lucia. So shout out to him. All right, this next guest speaker. Very honored to introduce this elder to you today. She is a doctor rising from the Caribbean islands. She actually does have a shop here in Chicago. She knew Dr. Sebi when he was here and had studied with him. So please give her your undivided attention. Thank you for all of the attention you have given us thus far. You could be anywhere in the world and you're here, working with us, building with us. So thank you. We give thanks for that. Dr. Murner, if you can please come bless the stage. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome, my sister.
Yes. Before I speak, my name is Dr. Murner, and I'm from Guyana, South America. I was an athlete, a 100 and 220 sprinter. I'm the champion of 1959 of Guyana, Trinidad, Barbados, Antigua, St. Kitts. I'm the champion of the West Indies.
You still are the champion.
Yes, I ran at the Pan American Games and the Olympic Games in 1959, Pan American Games at Soldier Field, and the Olympic Games with Wilma Rudolph. You all know Wilma Rudolph in 1960. My birthday's coming up pretty soon. I'll be 80 years old. But before I speak, I always like to give praises to the Almighty God for His goodness and His mercy for bringing me this far by faith. But my thing that I would like to speak on, I don't know how many of you know about the colon. Have you heard about the colon?
Oh.
Colon. The colon.
Yes,
the colon. Okay, my work is on the colon. What I do, I clean the colon out. Many people, when I went into this work, never heard, because while I was in medical school, what happened, they will take out the colon or the intestine out of the cadaver. So when we work with the cadaver, we never got a chance to see what the condition was of the person and why the person has made their transition, if it was not a trauma accident. But it so happened that I left medical school, Chicago Medical School, and I went into holistic medicine. And from that holistic medicine, I was able to get the understanding of what the colon is all about. The colon, we have what you call 8 feet of colon. We have in our body, starting from our mouth, coming all the way down. The food goes into our mouth, it goes through our esophagus, it goes into our stomach, and then we have 22 feet of small intestine. From the small intestine, it travels through a part that is called the ileocecal valve, which is the ending of the small intestine, where the appendix sits. Majority of time, the foods that we eat tends to sit in the epithelial walls of the colon, right? Going into the ileocecal valve, you have the appendix sitting right in that area. And where the appendix sits sometimes, because it's a blind spot, and an area where the lymphatic system tends to do certain type of work. But something that is very important that I did not understand is that where the appendix sits is where the pituitary gland, you heard about the pituitary gland? Yeah. Where the pituitary gland that sits in the brains connect to the cecum basin where the appendix sits, so that in case of anything, sitting in the epithelial walls of the colon, of the cecum basin and the ascending colon, the pituitary gland in the brain will send a stimulant to remove anything that is sitting in that cecum basin. Now, if the appendix has been removed, there is no signal that coming from the cough smoke in the air that could go to the cecum basin to remove anything that is sitting in that blind spot there. So then when I learned that the appendix was not only connected to the cecum basin, it was also connected to the pineal glands in the brain. You heard about the pineal gland, right? In the brain. So the pineal gland in the brain sends a stimulant coming from the universe, coming into the thalamus, from the thalamus to the hypothalamus, from the hypothalamus to the pituitary. The pituitary has 3 sections. It has an anterior, which is the front. It has a medial, and it has a posterior. The anterior part of of the pituitary gland, it controls the parathyroid in the throat, it controls the thymus gland that controls the heart, it controls the mammary system, it controls the spleen, the liver, and the gallbladder. It also connects to the pancreas, the adrenaline gland that sits on top of the kidneys, the ovaries, and the testes. So now this same pituitary gland also controls the nervous system in the body, the whole nervous tree. Like the brother told me that his name says is a tree. It controls that whole tree. Then to the back of the posterior part of the same pituitary gland, it controls your water balance in your body. And you know our body is made up of 85% of water. Now this same pituitary gland is sitting in the cecum basin, right? Where the appendix is. So if the appendix has been removed, there is no connection that is going to the pineal gland in the brain to remove what is sitting in the cecum basin. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, so if you have a gland that is sitting in the cecum basin that controls your eyes, that controls your ears, that control your tonsils, that control your thymus gland, that control that whole area, and that area is packed and sitting with foods that's not supposed to sit in the cecum basin, then you have a problem where the appendix starts giving you problems, right? So what the doctors does, they go and they remove that, disconnect you. From that, you disconnect your testes, it connects your ovaries, it connects your thymus gland, your mammary gland. Is a disconnection. So 40 years down the line, you start having a problem. One problem after the other. Why? Because your appendix has been removed. It also controls the tonsil, or your tonsils has been removed. And you're having a big problem and you're wondering why. And then it starts interfering with your brain. Because remember, the pituitary gland is sitting in the brain, right? And connect to the pineal gland in the brain. So now we have a problem with our head. Then going up the ascending colon, you have the thymus, the adrenaline gland, the mammary gland. On the turn of the transverse colon, you also have a separation between the solid and the liquid. So now that the appendix has been removed, the thymus is having a problem, the adrenaline gland that sits on top of the kidney is having a problem, your eyes is having a problem, because the waste start accumulating that's supposed to be in the other half of the transverse colon. It is now going down the other half that's supposed to be liquid and causing to have problem in the epithelial walls of your colon. Okay. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
Now, going back, coming down, the second part of the transverse colon was supposed to be solid. Now it starts blocking up. Now that section connects to different parts of your body. Now when the foods travel and it comes down the descending colon, it's all sitting there. And it could turn into a spastic. Spastic means it could be like a needle. It could be like a needle, or it could be large. It could either be a diverticuli, or it could be a spastic colon. The food is not traveling through the body the way it's supposed to travel. Now it starts interfering with the prostate gland. It starts interfering with the ovaries. It starts interfering with the adrenaline gland that sits on top of the kidneys. So now, what is happening, the stuff starts backing up and sitting in the descending colon on the epithelial walls of the colon and causing all type of complication. There's a book that I want you to get by the name of Colon Hygiene or Colon Health. You could pull it up from Amazon. There's another book that says Stay Younger. Those two books. Get those two books and read it. And I promise you that I will come back again and I will go through the whole system. And then you could see how you could live a long, healthy, prosperous life if you just keep your colon clean.
Oh, Matakoya said.
I'm sorry I have to make it so fast, but I have a patience that is waiting on me, and I was just asked to come in and talk quick to what I'm saying. But I hope that you will get those 2 books, and the next Colon Hygiene by Dr. Walker, and Stay Younger.
What if you don't have an appendix anymore?
When you don't have the appendix, then whatever is sitting in the cecum basin is blocking up that area. Remember, the appendix is connected to the pineal gland in the brain, right? So you having what you call a disconnection with energy, not coming through the way that it's supposed to come through. Plus, you might have some problem with the ovaries. You might have some problem with the testes, because a lot of waste is sitting in the cecum basin. Plus, you have parasites sitting in that cecum too. So now, those parasites could be taken over, because there is no germicidal fluid that comes from the brain to kill the parasite that is sitting in the cecum basin.
How you flush
You
it
understand?
out?
Huh?
How you flush it?
How you flush it out? Water. God-given water. God-given herbs.
Oh, no.
God, but you gotta know the herbs, what to use. God-given exercise. When you get to be 80, you can be doing like this. You see? So now, all you gotta do is just clean the body out. Thank you very much for the time that I get a chance to see you. This is my daughter here, Razi. She introduced me. Dr. Sebi, I know him for years. I haven't seen him for a while. So I'm glad that I got the opportunity to come and speak to y'all, and God bless.
Yeah, I had to get her on the video. She was so amazing. Oh, here we go, right here.
Just like the boy walked up and Will Smith and smacked him.
Oh my God.
He was taking that boy's shine. I'm taking her shine. Did y'all hear what I said?
Holy moly.
Did y'all hear what I said about your illness? I said it.
Amen.
It's done.
Done.
So how do I follow this? This is the headline right here. Y'all just embarrass me.
No, King,
I love you, sister.
King, I want you to know that I love you. And I want you to know that you keep on doing that. Okay, and thank you very much.
Well, beautiful. It's on Anna.
She just connected. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Did you need to say something, Chief?
Yeah, real quick.
Colon Health Key.
They say she's based here in Chicago. How do we reach her for English? Oh, that's my daughter right now.
I am Ha'iawa Tushka Sheila. I am Ha'iawa because I was named the tree by Dr. York, Malachi York. He stated that I was the tree and that the families of Nawabian, etc., should attach themselves to the tree. The tree in our ancient language of Lakono is Ha'iawa. So today I am Ha'iawa. Others know me as Tushka Sheila, Director General for the National Association for the Advancement of Indigenous People, and now Prime Minister of one of the Prime Ministers of the Maipori Aruan Nation. Most of you don't know much about it unless you've been online. I'm going to give a quick about the Maipori Nation. This is Maipori. This is Maipori. This is Maipori. Unless you're from Africa, if you're from the continent of North, South America, you're Maipori. Maipori is the dialect of the people of North and South America. Dialect belongs to whom? Not the animals, the people. So who are the people? They're the Maipori people. The Maipori Aruan dialect is how the Maipori Nation information came to me. June 2020. Came to me because the Maori Nation of New Zealand, through Ambassador Percy Tamayo Espinoza, who's one of the founding organizers and writers of the Declaration of Rights for Indigenous People that has been delivered to the world. Ambassador Tamayo found my search for indigenous people or descendants of Aborigine quite interesting, so they followed me for a few years, and then they began supporting me at the United Nations. There are 111 nations that recognize the efforts of what we've done, not what we're doing now, because we've surpassed what we've done by 100-fold, if not more. When I spoke at the United Nations in 2016, we did not have a treaty for anything, because we were not the Maipori nation at that point. We were simply NAAIP. But because of the work done by the National Association for the Advancement of Indigenous People, NAAIP, accolades were coming in and support came in from various nations and people. And from that, conversations were had by these entities with the Maori Nation of New Zealand, the oldest known indigenous group recognized by the international community on the planet. The Maori then took interest in what we were doing and decided to enter into a treaty. The treaty was laid out for NAAIP, but NAAIP was not a nation. It was simply an institution designed to help indigenous people find their way. So in the process of accepting the treaty, I decided to establish a nation instead of an institution with NAAIP. And the Maipori Aruan Nation came into existence with that treaty. Because of that treaty and the relationship that the Maori Nation has with a number of countries, including Malaysia, we are now part of a $2.5 billion economic treaty with Malaysia. And that's the indigenous people strictly of the Americas. It's not a lot of money, but when you start to look at how you can move these things, it changes the paradigm, if you know what you're doing. Maipori has moved forward since its beginning 6 months ago in establishing a government, because there was no government for Maipori. There was Tushka. And in order for a government to function, it has to be able to do business with other governments. And not enough hats for me to do business with government that would be beneficial for the people. So 7 months ago, I entered into compact with attorney Vanessa Fluker of Detroit. She's a historic attorney in the real estate arena and in the arena of prison reform. I invited her to come to Maipori and function as our Attorney General, and she accepted that role. So we have a standing Attorney General that's recognized by the state of Michigan just recently as being the Attorney General for the Maipori Nation, thereby recognizing the Maipori Nation. And the Congress of Michigan also did the same. So we're slowly beginning to receive recognition and acknowledgement from states and governments. Just recently, letters were submitted by the Attorney General's Office of Nevada indicating that their initial claim of our national ID was a fraud. They declined on that and recognize it 100%. We have that in writing. So slowly but surely, we're beginning to have acknowledgments coming from a lot of different places as the Maipori people. In moving forward, Maipori, we have to have government. So that's why I came here to Chicago. I came here to Chicago to discuss the government of Maipori and the state of matriarchal health, because it is close to death. And that's my direction towards women's health, because as matriarchs, you have been so annihilated in spirit, mind, emotion, body, all of that. What the doctor spoke was very, very true, all of it. And I appreciate the conversation that was had. We need to go further. We need to go further into the true state of the feminine on this planet. And without reaching certain vibrations, we don't find the health of anybody. But because of the fact that we're living in Aquarius, that's the age of divine feminine energy. So we have to go a little bit deeper in our thought process about what we're doing and itemize what is feminine energy before we even add divine to it. What is feminine energy? And one of the main aspects of feminine energy is creative. Constantly in creation. Thanks for creating where we exist. Nurturing, intuitiveness, those things are important for mankind because we have to put the guns down. We have to stop the atrocities, we have to stop the human trafficking, we have to stop all of those negative things that are going on. So how do we get to that point? We have to empower our feminine during this age of feminine energy because it's ruling the universes of universes, ruling. So we have to acknowledge that if we're going to move forward. Big problem with women is the destruction of the system, the whole system. And a lot of it starts with what's called the hypothalamus gland, which regulates so much of the mood, depression, and all of those things so that she can function because she can't even begin to think with all of those different things going on and the contaminations that comes from improper living and all kinds of things. Sex, food, you name it, alcohol, all of those things have destroyed the feminine that we used to have a long, long time ago. We are coming out of the Iron Age. That's where we have all this patriarchal and get down with it type of thing going on. That's gone. We have to recognize that it is gone. That's the biggest thing. We as men functioning in the masculine must recognize that it's gone. We don't, we're going to die. The universe is just going to eliminate us because the energy will not allow us to survive in this realm of revelation. And that's what it is. This is the Bible, it talks about revelation. Revelation is simply the revealing of all things. And we are living in the revealing of all things. So if we're going to even begin to talk about women's health, the state of women's health, we have to look at what's going into our mouth, eyes, ears, body. We have to look at all that. Because 15 men are going to give you 15 different cycles of depression in your head. It's going to affect everything in your body. We have followed so many paradigms. Even before the colonizer came, we were following paradigms that were not healthy for us as people because we were living in that age. So this is not something new that we were going through. It just culminated to where we are now, where we have all kinds of strange existence of people that was my brother, but now he's my sister. So that's a process that we're going through of evolution, and evolution is a physical thing that's controlled by the inner you, or the universe, or God, or whatever one wants to call it. We have to recognize that the feminine cannot even begin to think because she's too prevailed in ailments. Women's health is premier. If we do not move as a nation, which is foundation of the Maipori, it's a matriarchal structure that's being recreated, and to do that you have to have the feminine energy. So in the process of doing that, the Maipori has an attorney general. She has a commissioner of tribal affairs. She has a commissioner of agriculture. She has a commissioner of knowing. She.
Oh.
There's she's throughout Maipori, and it has to be that way because the me doesn't know what to do. And she exists in the feminine energy. It's my job to help her find more of that feminine energy. Not my job to oppose her, but to aid and assist in finding that feminine energy that reverberates in everything in creation. We have to recognize that. So we have to view things a little bit different. We have to remove our possessiveness. Commissioner Cobb, I'm calling you out. We have to remove our possessiveness of things and of people, because my children don't belong to me. It's just my job to try to give them the best learning environment. Not even teach them, but proper learning environment, because I've been taught wrong. Most of us have been taught wrong. So there ain't nothing that we can teach our children. That's why we should just monitor them and let them be free so we can learn from them, because they are learning from the natural course of things. We have to recognize who we are as people, not just as a human being. We're spirits living in a condition, and we know it. Otherwise, everybody in this room is likely to be highly weird. Weird is something different that others cannot relate to, but when you get in a room of weirdness, shit happens. Great things happen, just like in this occasion, because these minds are connecting, because they know that the one next to them is just as weird as he is, and we're gonna stand here weird, strong. That's right. And that's what geniuses are. They're weird. They are completely weird. So everyone in this room is a genius, and it's as the brother from Def Jam, it's common. Genius is common if we just let ourselves put the shit down, put the crap down in our lives, and begin to research how do we go in, because we've been taught not to go in. We've been taught all these esoteric things. All of these external things we've been taught, and we have to release them. That's the only way that we're going to begin functioning in the feminine. And when a man, masculine, functions in the feminine on equal position, he is perfect. That's balance. And that's what the feminine brings to balance. But we have to recognize what the feminine really is in the energy of creation, and recognize it every moment of the day. I can't recognize that she's of a feminine nature, design, and energy without recognizing her hand is made a part of her body. And I must nurture this hand just as the same way that I nurture the hair, the mind. We have to take a different approach, because we've been taught to be destructive of ourselves, 100%. The state of women's health depends on us. It depends on us as men, because they're seeking it. The women are seeking to be healthy and safe. At the top of the ladder, when they go out on a date for the first time, is safe. That should not even exist. But why does it exist? Because we've been living in the iron age of destruction and conquering and possessiveness and ego. I should stronger than yours, etc. We've been living and bred that way. So we have to cut it off. And when we cut it off, intuitively, she's going to know it. She can't help it. She's going to know it. Intuitively, going to know what's taking place, because they're just built that way. Women are born women because they're women. Who controls that? We don't. The cyclic memory of karma, of what he or she needs to be, controls all of that. So we have to recognize that we have been living in a cyclic structure. We just repeating shit, repeating. We got to stop repeating. So we step outside of that zone, like, what was the fish name in Dory, that thing? You get on the wheel and just everybody ride on the wheel. Oh, let's hop off now. That's something in there. It's saying get off the wheel of repetition, to get away from the cyclic nature of the mind. That's what it's saying. And that's what we have to do. We have to get rid of the cyclic things that we do, eating wrong foods, existing in wrong energies. That's what we have to do. That's the focus of the Maipori Oral Nation. We're not just some newfound indigenous group that has no focus in life. We focus in life. We focus in life because life brought us the Maipori. It was created that brought us Maipori. There's no way that some scholar was going to find something and say, hey, look what I got over here for y'all. No, it had to come through trial and error. Bumping heads and falling down, and now we're at a place. The Maipori is a sovereign indigenous nation. We are in a position to do things that even Native Americans, I've been saying, are not able to do, because Native Americans are congressional tribes controlled by Congress. So they don't have true sovereignty, which means that they cannot enter into construct or relationship with a foreign country. We can enter into relationship with any foreign country out there that exists as Maipori, because our treaty does not restrict us to the United States. Native Americans, their treaties restrict them to the language of the United States. And the Constitution that was put in place made sure that they could go nowhere, and they agreed to go nowhere outside of Congress. So they're congressional tribes. The Maipori, we are American Aborigine. That's different. We are American Aborigine. American because, lack of a better explanation, in 2015, I knew nothing about Abyabyala. If I had, then we would be Aborigines of Abyabyala, because Abyabyala is the original name of North and South America. The Zuni, the Z-U-N-I tribe of New Mexico, appealed to Washington, D.C. in the 1800s, 1889, I think it was, to give them back their original name, which was Abyabyala. Give America back its original name. So this is an old fight that's been going on. Maipori, we are of Abyabyala, and people of what's called Mexican descent, they're not Mexicans. The system is known. But those people are our people. And because they're our people, the people in immigration belong to us. The people of all of Mexico belong to us. They're all old blood people. Old blood is found in North and South America. It's found in Ethiopia and Ireland as a quantified blood. Nowhere else. No, all these places in Africa where we were supposed to have come from, no old blood. Old blood is in Liberia because you took natives from the Americas and shipped them on Paul Cuffey's ships and sent them to Liberia and created the country of Liberia. So that's where that comes from. So we have old blood that gives us our heritage. We have mummies that were found in the Grand Canyon, dreaded mummies that are sitting right now in the Smithsonian. No Native American group can go and ask about those bodies. Only we can. But until we are a government that can stand behind what it is that we're saying, then it's just Tushka Humak. And Tushka Humak has no real value in going to the Smithsonian to review mummies. But as a nation, we have a concern. Because not only were the mummies found, but the largest cache of gold and diamonds on the planet found in the caves of the Grand Canyon. Our goal is not really focusing on making our brothers and sisters recognize that they're Maipori, but strengthening ourselves in recognition of who we are and the few that we are, because we can move mountains. Because we have the go-ahead. We have a treaty. That treaty allows us through many, 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 many doors. So I encourage everyone, I know we're running out of time, and I will tend to talk a whole lot. I just talk, and I don't know how to turn shit off. It just goes. So if you start asking questions, it's going to go longer. So if you're going to ask some questions, ask me a question now so we can hurry up. I'm just keeping it real because we're on the clock, and I want to answer your questions and give you whatever type of service that I can give you while I'm here. I'm not from Chicago. I'm from so many other places, and I'm always moving about, so you never have access to me, Amel. It's been 5 years, brother. It's been 5 years since we saw one another, and come on, I'm traveling everywhere. And in the process of my traveling, he's lost out. See, he's lost so much in the years that he and I have not been embraced. So we need to embrace. We need to embrace while the energy is here. Because it's not going to be here always. I'm 62 years old. And I don't know what's going to happen to me when I walk out the door. It might be my time. So you get the answers that you need because there's nobody else on the planet that's done what I've done. No one else that you can pick up a phone, call, and get answers that I will give you today or anytime. Yes, sir.
Is there a way we can have a look at the treaty?
Yes. Is that treaty online?
No, it's not. I looked it up.
Is it on the website?
If you go at the ID card, it says Warrior Nation, the Warrior Nation Treaty. I looked it up on the internet, and it did not have a copy of the treaty. But the second and third line was all about HEMOC.
Is it on .com? Okay.
Where is that?
We're gonna give you the website.
www.maiporination.com. You go on the site and you'll find the
Say that again?
Maipori.
What you spelling there?
Yes.
Okay.
Nation.com.
But I will say this, in addition to that, the second and third notations, I looked at Warrior Nation Treaty, was HEMOC. And they gave a deputy, because he's been working with that treaty. So they gave his bio and look at his bio, because he's not here to start some shit for himself. HEMOC has started 6 international institutions that are still functioning. He didn't take a job and try to to get some cash. He's still building the pieces and the parts to his puzzle. We, Chicago, are part of that puzzle, and he has things to do to go on. So while he's here, we want you to be a part of this planetary movement of the Maipori Nation. Get your questions asked, so all those objections are out the way. I hope.
And do we have the nation statehood as of now, or is forthcoming?
We have treaty, constitution, declaration of independence, and we're here in Chicago creating what's called a congressional convention. Our congressional convention means that we are convening tribal leaders, bringing them together to form the Congress of the Maipori nations. So, yes, because the entire Congress is not formed yet.
Okay.
So we're looking at existing citizens or tribal leaders of the Maipori and new forthcoming citizens of the Maipori. So it's vitally important that you really recognize what's going on here, because it's a convening of power. And once we are convened and we submit our communications with the Department of Interior and the other agencies, life changes, and we begin a process of where we are the government for individuals that look like us, because Black Lives Matter has nowhere to go. They're at the end of their road. I've worked with them in Michigan, and there's no outlet for anybody. There's no outlet for anybody. How do females do it? No outlet for anybody. Did you see that? I just went divine, y'all. It said females on. They just smacked their hands like that. Anyway, Nation of Islam, nowhere to go. Absolutely nowhere to go. Christians of this country who call themselves African Americans, nowhere to go. Nobody has anywhere to go except under the treaty or stay in America. And America is falling. This morning, a number of banks in the Caribbean territory, no money, no access to funds, is falling. Russia has initiated the process to fall America. And we need to realize that as a collective, because we have to have somewhere to go. And we have 1,700 tribes in Mexico. So once the government is firm enough in what we're doing, those relationships that we have in Mexico and South America, we have extended homes. So when chaos erupts, we all, as a family, we know what it is that we're doing because we have the land already assigned to us in South America. So you understand? There are things that we should really, really look at so that we can compartmentalize our thoughts, our energies, and move it towards Maipori, because it's the only place to go. There's no one else with a treaty, period. And we as darkened brothers and sisters, we should really look at the fact that we've been under this Willie Lynch thing for far too long. And now we have an avenue of freedom for everybody, for all, even Native Americans. Native Americans, they just simply have to walk away from their construct with Congress and come to Maipori and their sovereign nation. It's that simple, because we are under treaty and they are not. So they become grandfathered into the treaty, all of them. Anybody got any questions?
How do you become a part of that?
Which one? The Maipori?
Yes.
This is our commissioner right here next to you. These two individuals can speak with you and direct you as to that. Any other questions? Anybody? Somebody hit me with a question so I can. I see your hand keep going up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was wondering, do you promote sacred union within your nation?
What is that?
Sacred union between a man and a woman, marriage.
You know, our ancestors, if you were inefficient, you were dead. Inefficient means we are a nation and we stay at war. So if we got no babies, we can't do no war. We become a weakened institution. So if people we ain't gonna have no babies. You see? So when we want to pair up a man to start teaching that tradition, man, man, woman, woman, that creates an issue. We have to learn to come from the spiritual, what we were taught in the beginning. So then those lower vibration things, they stay put until you control that switch. Not somebody else or not some lower emotional feeling that you're having. So yes, we are looking to engage with divine spiritual energies from everywhere.
What does that mean?
That means that one is aware of who he is. That means that his life is not controlled by some dogma, by some philosophical construct that will carry him nowhere in life, that will lead him to that cyclic nature. And one has to understand what cyclic nature is, and that's why we are creating the structure that we're creating, so that we will educate. We educate as we move forward, because we've been destroyed by Jesus. I'm sorry, we just been destroyed, and it's the fact. So we have to pull away from that, because I'm Jesus. I'm Yahshua. I'm Timothy Drew. I'm Martin King. I'm all of those energies, because that's what it is. It's an energy. Jesus is an energy representing the Christ energy in the philosophical structure of that book. Not a real person, but an energy. And I am Christ. We are all Christ. We're made in the image of this body is just a covering to throw us off, to keep us confused, so that we don't find the energy to elevate. Do you think that who would create such a thing? Well, we asked for this body. We asked for this time on this plane of existence. We don't realize it, but that's why we have these deja vus, because you've already created it in your mind. So these deja vus are nothing but thoughts that you put in your own head from cyclic memory. So it just shifts and pops up whenever it chooses. So we have to embrace one another and teach one another what this is and what being spiritual is. Human in a spiritual condition. That's a conversation that has to take place. And once that conversation takes place, then you know how to attach yourself, because it's in here, it's in you. It's not in me to control, it's in you to control, and everything that goes on with your entire life. And it's it leads to all sorts of things. Manifestation of a beautiful nation. Because when we are on one accord, like they did they said in the Bible, they confused them folks' language because they were getting too close to the source. Well, when you are close to the source and you're on the right energy, then life blooms, and we're in Aquarius, so it has no choice. In Aquarius, man is known to live hundreds of thousands of years. I don't know if I want to be one of those, but who knows what's going to happen. But we're in Aquarius and we cannot remove ourselves from it, so we need to learn what that means. We really should focus on it as a nation, this new paradigm that our nation exists in, so that we can function properly. This brother right here is extremely in tune. This one right here, extremely in tune. In tune. See, I can't point at so many of you because I don't know you yet, but you're all weird. I feel you. Seriously, I feel all of you. And when you begin to go in, everything becomes known. So it's just an experience. You have to reach a point to experience it. And that's the real state of women's health, is we have to help them get back to the inner self. so that the outer self is of no importance. It's just automatically in perfect condition because the inner self is so full of light and knowing what and how it should live, how the body should live. You know. Anybody got any questions? If not, we can shake hands and yes, ma'am.
What would you say, like, women's role in this nation? How would you define women's role in this nation?
You know,
In the nation.
in the nation. Today, I was explaining to someone about divine feminine energy, and as the conversation was going, and I was giving that old patriarchal, I'm giving that conversation, I get hit with something that I wasn't even aware of, because the feminines, they just pop it out. They recognize what's being said. So we must be led by that. You see? We have to be led by that energy because the mind is so contaminated and convoluted, and it has to be, remind you, so shit, sit down.
Yeah.
And I'm finding so many intuitive, feminine people. Very extremely intuitive. And as one who's intuitive, I have no choice but to pay attention. And as I pay attention, I have no choice but to step back because I'm in a place of unknown waters. So I better listen because I'm in a place of unknown waters with the feminine energy. Especially when you come in contact with a feminine who's been bathing in that entire understanding. You better step back. You better sit down. When they did bring slaves from the Caribbean territory, and when they brought those from Africa, the few that they came and brought to the Caribbean territory, they put masks on the women. She ain't talking nothing because she's too dangerous. Because they knew the power of the feminine. It's just that the feminine has forgotten because twerking is in full effect. So because of that, the mind goes where the excitement is. Because ain't no excitement sitting in meditation. Not for the moving monkey, because the moving monkey can't stop moving. And that's the mind. So we have to find a way to stop the monkey from moving. And we will build a strong nation if all of the leaders are quieting the monkey in them. And we need to be led by the feminine energies for that to take place, because he, we, me, and us, we cannot do it. We have failed. So yes, the Maipori, our own nation, is a matriarchal construct that's designed and appointments for the feminine to begin leadership, where the feminine can focus on these babies that are in immigration and these other places, human trafficking, and their voices will lead the way to stop that shit. You understand? Yeah. Because we can't stop it, because guns don't stop it. Spirituality, knowing, unlocks those doors in the entire universe. And that's the state of women's health. Again, we have to stand behind these constructs that are aware of what's taking place in the universe. And we're in Aquarius, so it's almost every feminine that we bump into. She ain't got no choice. And if she's twerking, working, she's gonna stop twerking, working. She ain't got no choice, because the energies of the universe is stopping all that. Bob killing Bob, that's gonna stop. Killing is all of this stuff does not happen in the golden age. These are remnants of the iron age. So I've run my mouth enough. If you want to reach me, you can reach me. I got business cards, I got numbers, I got Congress people, everybody. You have access to me, I'm here. I don't plan to leave Chicago too soon. I need to arrange a steadiness here, because the Congress has to convene almost on a daily basis in order to build the structure that we're building. And we need more people at the table to assist the Congress people, the commissions, all of that. So as we convene out of here today, we should already be setting a time when we come back together. That's my thought on it.